We all know about the Boston Celtics trade for Kevin Durant, at least the proposed trade, in which Jaylen Brown and likely Marcus Smart end up going for Kevin Durant. Now, whether that ends up happening or not is yet to be seen, and this video isn't really about that trade necessarily happening, but more so about Jaylen Brown himself. Now, Jaylen Brown, the reason the Celtics want to even include Jaylen Brown in discussions is because of the fear that he will leave in 2 years. He becomes an unrestricted free agent the 2024-2025 NBA season, and the reason he won't sign an extension is because he makes more money if he becomes a free agent. It's just the way that the extension works. So he's not going to sign an extension. Jaylen Brown wants to be the number one guy, which he's not on the Celtics. You have Jason Tatum. And so the fear is that Jaylen Brown is going to leave and go elsewhere where he could be the guy, and he's going to get the same money pretty much anywhere he goes. So he's not losing out on the money heavily. He gets to be the star, the guy, the go-to guy. And Jaylen Brown is now in trade conversations, and he's upset about it, right? Which makes sense. You know, you were the guy that showed up to the NBA Finals. You were the guy that was putting up 20-point fourth quarters, trying to do whatever you could to win a championship, and now they want to trade you. You know, there was no guarantee he was going to leave, but the Celtics are concerned. And another example of this was the DeJounte Murray trade. The Spurs traded Murray for the same reason, the fear of him leaving because his contract is up. He's not going to sign an extension. Is he really going to re-sign with a rebuilding Spurs team? So the Spurs looked at it as, let's just unload him now, go full-on tank mode, and just embrace the rebuild. Now, the Celtics, they're not a tanking team. They're not a rebuilding team. So if they could get a Kevin Durant, it makes a lot of sense for them. And there's no guarantee of who is going to be available if they have to trade Jaylen Brown via sign and trade or things like that. It just becomes harder, and you run the risk and concern. But when it comes to Jaylen Brown and where he could potentially go to, he's not going to want to go to a rebuilding team, right? He's not going to want to go to a team like the Spurs, even though he would probably be the number one guy there. He's going to want to go somewhere where he could step in, be competitive, be on a team that is a title contention team, but still be the guy, right? So what team could he go to that would work at? Well, you know who is a free agent or can potentially be a free agent during the same year Jaylen Brown would be available is LeBron James. LeBron James has this year and then next season, same thing as Jaylen Brown, and then he could opt out and become a free agent. So the Lakers could potentially only have Anthony Davis on their books come that season, the 2024-2025 season. LeBron, he could either opt in, get a new deal. He could restructure. He has options, right? He opts into the extension. Now you get the contract extension, or he, ends up just opting out, signs a new deal, and then they rework a new deal, new structure. Maybe he does another 1+1, whatever. We saw him do that kind of thing with the Cavs, where he would opt out, sign a new deal, do a 1+1 again, those kind of things. So it's very likely that that's what's going to end up happening with LeBron and the Lakers, which means there could be a moment where the Lakers have a ton of cap space. And that's where Mr. Jaylen Brown could come in. Now, Jaylen Brown, if he were to go to the Lakers, he would immediately be the number one option. Now, Anthony Davis was traded for the goal of being that number one guy. The Lakers wanted him to be the guy to carry the franchise post LeBron. Problem is, he's shown, at least to this point, that he's not really that guy. Lack of consistency, injury issues, stuff like that. And he is honestly a better two option. He is like the ultimate two option. Now, I don't think Anthony Davis doesn't have the potential to be the number one guy. He just doesn't have what many people want him to have and what a number one guy has. Jaylen Brown has that. So if Jaylen Brown went to the Lakers, even with a guy like Anthony Davis, you would still be the number one scoring option. You would still be that guy. Okay, well, what happens with LeBron James? Now, if LeBron opts in, at this point, LeBron's going to be 40, going on 41 years old. He's not going to be the number one option. Even if he is the best player on the team, he's only going to be able to give you so much. So again, Jaylen Brown would be the number one option. And LeBron could kind of play the magic role. and facilitate and get Anthony Davis and Jaylen Brown their buckets. LeBron is just so skilled and talented and intelligent. He's probably still going to get his 20 points. And when LeBron does ultimately leave or retire or whatever, you'd have Jaylen Brown and Anthony Davis to build around, and you'd have that cap space to go and add those guys. So you got a young guy in Jaylen Brown who's coming in who at that point would still be under 30. He'd be 29 going on 30. Anthony Davis would be, 29, same, 29 going on to 30 when all is said and done. So, you have a young Jaylen Brown that you could still build. Jaylen Brown's only 25 years old right now. So in 2 years, he'd be 27. Once LeBron leaves, like I said, he'd be 29, 30. Anthony Davis would be 30, because he's 27. So, yeah, he'd be 31, 32, something around those lines. So you'd still have a core that is young enough to compete for the next couple years. You could put some pieces around him. You're in a great position if you're the Lakers. Jaylen Brown gets to go to an immediate contender, and he gets to be the number one guy. And that's the thing. And that's the biggest fear the Celtics have. That's why the Celtics want to trade Jaylen Brown for a guy like Kevin Durant. Now, if they can't get a guy like Kevin Durant, maybe they work it out and they hope that he stays. And I'm not saying mark your calendar, Jaylen Brown's coming to Lakers. I'm not saying anything like that, but it is an absolute possibility. Because Jaylen Brown could be looking at it as they have the cap space and go there and be the number one scoring option, the number one guy. Got Anthony Davis as my number two, which is the best number two in the league. And, if LeBron signs back on, LeBron's going to be 41. So he's not going to be, out there just, trying to be the number one scorer, the number one dominant player in the league. No, he's going to be trying to get in the facilitator role. So I have him to facilitate. So I don't have to do point guard duties or facilitate. I can just be a scorer and defender. I got Anthony Davis to back me up. You'd be great defensively. You'd be great offensively. You put some shooters and some defenders around them. Come on. Jaylen Brown, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis is an absolute contender. Even at LeBron's age, unless he just completely falls off a cliff in the next few years. And Anthony Davis, same thing, which I don't think is going to happen. Then you're in a good position. Worst case scenario, you're building around Jaylen Brown. And the Lakers have shown the desire to go and do what is necessary to put a contender around him. So Jaylen Brown, not only looking at I could be the number one option, he'd also be looking at it as I know the Lakers' history. They'll do what it takes to put me in a position to win championships, even after Anthony Davis, even after LeBron. But worst case scenario, I have Anthony Davis. Or if it's not working out, you trade Davis, you get some quality pieces, and you build around Jaylen Brown. It would be a great transition also post LeBron. Now, of course, there's a lot of things that have to go into this one, right? Obviously, if Jaylen Brown ends up getting traded to the Nets, I don't think he's going to leave the Nets because you're still kind of in the same position. You're the number one guy. You got Ben Simmons as your number two. They're going to trade Kyrie at that point for probably somebody else. You probably get your buddy Marcus Smart. So you have several guys around there. I could see him staying with the Nets. Does he look past the fact that the Celtics tried to trade him? Is that something that him and the Celtics can get over? If it is, then maybe he sticks it out. Again, I'm not saying it's a lock. I'm saying it's something to keep your eye out on. And it's something that realistically could happen. And I know a lot of people feel if it doesn't happen, then the next year, Jason Tatum. As much as Jason Tatum loves the Lakers, grew up a Kobe fan, stuff like that, I don't know if he would actually leave the Celtics to go join the Lakers, at least that year. I think it really depends. Also, it depends on, Kevin Durant. But it's not out of the realm of possibility. The problem is if the Lakers end up getting Jaylen Brown, I don't think they get Jason Tatum too, because I don't think Jaylen Brown's going to want to repeat the Celtics over on the Lakers, although, maybe kind of work it out, figure it out. But realistically, I think Jaylen Brown is the target. I don't know about Jason Tatum if that could happen. I think Jaylen Brown, if the Lakers were smart, they would hone in on Jaylen Brown. Put the feelers out there now of hey man, and in 2 years, LeBron's can opt out of his contract. Why don't you come over here? Now, obviously, if the Lakers end up trading for, a Kyrie Irving, or they do a Buddy Hield and Miles Turner deal or something like that, and they have long-term salary, well, then that changes things, and they probably can't get Jaylen Brown. But you never know, especially if LeBron walks, if you have his salary space. There's options. There's a lot of questions and possibilities down the road. I mean, we're still a couple years away from this even being a potential reality. But the Celtics and Jaylen Brown were linked to the Lakers before in potential trades for like Anthony Davis, swapping Davis for Jaylen Brown, which many people seem to like on both sides. I don't think that would happen, but Jaylen Brown on the Lakers, I do think it's a real threat to sign him in free agency. And maybe that's a little bias on my end because this is a Laker channel, but he wants to be the number one guy. The Celtics have shown that they're trying to trade him because of it. All the writing is on the walls. Now, he could go to a plethora of teams, but how many teams are going to have the cap space and be a legit contender, and he gets to be the number one guy? All three of those things, I think, likely have to check off. Because he's not going to go to some, random team that just is no good. He's not going to go to the Spurs that are tanking, and, now he's got to try to, revive this franchise. No, he's going to want to go somewhere. Where can I be the number one guy? Where do I go to have the best chance to win a championship? And, and who else is around me? That's what it is. And the Lakers would be that team. The Lakers have aligned themselves up perfectly. And Anthony Davis would be an expiring contract that following year. So if it doesn't work out, you could try to trade him, or you could re-sign him, or you could do whatever. It just gives you possibilities to explore again. And that's what this is all about. But as always, pass the question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What do you think about the potential of Jaylen Brown potentially becoming a Laker in the 2024-2025 NBA season? Do you think, yeah, it's a real possibility? You're right. It's a real threat. He could come there, be the number one guy, be the alpha, be the leader. You'd have a running mate in Anthony Davis. If LeBron does re-sign, then perfect. You got LeBron James. He could be the facilitator. He doesn't have to do the scoring load and the workload. He just kind of, be the Magic. And he's gonna get his 20 points a game just being that. And they would be a legit contender. I mean, seriously, Anthony Davis, Jaylen Brown, and LeBron James, and you'd have Jaylen Brown as a solid defender and scorer, Anthony Davis as a solid defender and scorer. You go get a solid big man that can block shots, spread the floor. If Thomas Bryant is working out, keep Thomas Bryant, maybe Damian Jones if you could keep them long term. Cool, perfect. It just gives them options. There's things that could work out, but we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. Again, however you feel about it, love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.